Hello and welcome to episode 3 of Primal Attraction. I'm your host, Mela Marlity, and today we're going to be talking about quite a big topic, addiction. Now, we're not going to get through all of this today, so this is just going to be my first exploration into addiction and what it means to me. Addiction has been something that's kind of been prevalent in my whole life. My father had a problem with alcohol, and I grew up watching that, and I grew up with that being so normal and commonplace that it meant nothing when I was too young to understand. It was just how it goes. And then obviously as I grew older and I realised that other people's fathers didn't behave that way, or you can go to a meal and you don't have to drink alcohol, or you just start to see patterns and you start to make sense of it all, and then you start to build resentment because your life doesn't fit the mold. So being a child of that it's interesting because I think it's made me quite introspective and deep in one sense, but it's also made me hyper vigilant and hyper aware of both my own behaviours and other people's behaviours. And something that is quite difficult to come to terms with is when it makes you hyper vigilant about your own tendencies and your own behaviours, it breeds this element of perfectionism because you know what the alternative is. So for me, it's made me a very all or nothing individual, which in itself has resulted in me having an addictive personality. It's really hard because it's easy to see someone else's behaviours and kind of say, look, I've seen these behaviours being replicated before. This is something that you might want to keep an eye on. But when you see it within yourself, it's not something that you necessarily ignore, but well, for me, it went one of two ways. So it's either I'm like uber conscious and conscientious of what I'm putting in my body and what I'm doing, or it goes on the other end of the spectrum of like, well, I fucked it up anyway. Like, there's no point. Like, I'm just go hard or go home. Like, it's your 20s, your 20s are for figuring it out. And whilst that's very true, by the way, like, if you're doing some dumb shit, don't just do it because you're in your 20s. Like, figure it out in your 20s, realise that it's a problem in your 20s, and then resolve it for your fucking 30s. Do you know what I mean? Like, and for me, one of those things, unfortunately, or fortunately, I don't know how you want to look at it, but it's alcohol, it's substance, it's sex, and food, and a myriad of things that I've come to realise that addiction is not one thing. Addiction is so all-encompassing. Like, it's a web. The actual thing that you're addicted to isn't necessarily the cause. If I look at my dad's story, he wasn't an alcoholic because he loved the taste of whiskey. Do you know what I mean? Like, who the fuck enjoys whiskey to that extent? Come on now. Do you know, like, please. People have addictions because there is a disconnect between the heart and the head. There's an emotional thing that's not being fed. It's starving. So you fill that gap with something that temporarily fixes the problem and feels like the solution. So for my father, alcohol was never really the problem. The problem was severe depression, anxiety, isolation, insecurity, probably a number of other things. But it all came from a feeling of lack or scarcity, right? Now, to resolve that problem, instead of filling his life with the things that could have solved it, he wasn't equipped to navigate those emotions and push himself out of his comfort zone. The easiest thing to do was reach for the drink, and I don't blame him. It makes total sense. It makes complete sense in my mind when I think about it now. Like, I really spent a lot of my younger years trying to understand why someone would want to do that kind of thing. I went to my first AA meeting when I was 18. It was in Canary Wharf. I remember it was a really rainy day. So much so, I didn't take a jacket. I was wearing a jumper, one of my dad's jumpers actually. And I remember I was like running through Canary Wharf, and I felt like a little movie star in like this depressive episode of like coming of age and like Skins-esque shit. But anyway, that's beyond the point. I started going to AA. Well, I just went to that one meeting, said no words whatsoever, didn't talk to anyone. I just looked like a fresh-faced child listening to all these incredible people share their stories. And that was the first time that I really realised that addiction is a bit of a choice, in my experience, right? It is a bit of a choice. I don't know when you go that far into it what it's like, but there's an element of it that is a choice. But as I said, it's your medicine. So it's a disease. At its core, it's a disease. But it's also a preventable thing, I've come to realise. It's not something that you have to go through if you have the confidence, understanding, and vulnerability to admit the truth to yourself whilst you're going through it, and just like speaking to someone or yourself or journaling or doing all those cringy, cheesy things that they tell you to do. But regardless, doing something. But anyway, yeah, that was my first experience going to AA. It really opened my eyes to the reality that my dad could be facing. And through that, it made me more forgiving, and it made me more, I'm not going to say empathetic because I didn't understand it. I was too young to experience it, but it gave me sympathy. Now, from the position that I'm in, I can empathise with my dad and the way that he was feeling at times. Then I tried taking my mum to like families affected by those with addiction, and that was really hard. That was really, really hard because I was in a room of people that had their own experiences of it, sharing their own stories. Again, amazing, great, vulnerable people. Like, there was so much love in that room. And the reason that I felt that was because all these individuals are with people who are going through something, and they understand that they're going through something. Now, rather than getting annoyed at that individual, they really took it upon themselves to kind of find a way to communicate how they were feeling. I think me and my mum went maybe for a couple of sessions, and I don't think it was 100% for her, and that's absolutely fine too. But of late, I've been going to a fellowship and experiencing it firsthand from the perspective of a participant. And that's been so interesting. Listening to other people's stories, realising that you're really not alone. Like, some of these feelings that you're having are so valid and so seen and experienced time and time again all over the world, probably right now by someone else. And I think that's what's inspired me to do this, because at times it feels like you're the only person going through whatever you're going through. As I just said, the reality is, whether we want to admit it to ourselves or not, whether we have a problem or not, like, feelings are so, I suppose, actually, it is all just very primal. Like, realistically, emotions and feelings, there are a set number of things that we might feel, right? If we look at, like, that movie, I don't know what it's called, the one about the emotions and shit. Like, there's, like, 5 of them or something, right? Like, there's anger, there's happiness, there's the blue one, sadness, anxiety. Like, there are a number of emotions that we could possibly feel. So it makes complete sense that on this planet where there are, I don't know, like 8 billion people now, right? Of course there is someone else going through something similar. And of course there is someone that you can relate to. So, yeah. I can't remember the rest of the sentence. But if you could take something away from what I just said in the last 30 seconds, then there you go. Anyway, on to the next thing. So I've kind of brushed over my childhood there, and the normality of addiction and alcohol. The next thing I really want to go into is why I am doing it. I heard quite recently that it feels more difficult when you're not quite addicted fully to anything, but you have small addictions to everything. Because then where the fuck do you pinpoint it? What the fuck do you quit? And that really resonated with me because I've decided to give up a lot of stuff. Again, it falls in line with my all or nothing personality. And part of that is because when one thing for me goes, it all starts to crumble. I like to compare it to a house of cards. And let's say I just have one cigarette. That one cigarette will probably lead to, oh, let's just go to the pub and have a pint. Oh, yeah, I'm not going to get the non-alcoholic version. Oh, I fancy an IPA. It's been a while. And then the next time I go, I'll probably get another IPA, maybe another IPA, maybe another IPA. I'll probably have like about 5 cigarettes with that too. And then it comes to, right, let's go out. Right, yeah, let's get fucking more prees, all the shebang. So it feels like it's all collapsing, and then, you know, you get to a certain level and then that's not cutting it anymore. You need a bit more adrenaline. So yeah, you're going to go shag a stranger, I don't know. You're going to go shag someone. You're going to probably regret it. It's probably going to be shit. It's probably going to last about 30 seconds. And then you're going to find something else to fulfill something else, and then like it's all encompassing for me. It's all connected. And I realised that there is one thing that has kind of stood the test of time for me, and I do feel quite uncomfortable talking about this because it's one of those where it's like weird. Like I'd be more comfortable talking about having a full-blown alcohol addiction. That would make more sense to me. But I've recently realised, mind you, I should have realised a fucking long time ago, because this addiction's taken up the best part of my whole life, basically. I think it started, let me think about it. I became conscious of it. I became conscious of my body when I was 6, and the comments and the ramifications of looking the way that I did. I started taking action against myself for my body at the age of 8 in the form of a food diary. My body image issues started at the age of 6. My restrictive eating started at the age of 8. My bulimia started at the age of... How old was I? I remember it was the week leading up to residentials in year 9. So I was 12. I turned 13 just after I came back. And has persisted up until now. And I'm 26. So 14 years, that's just over half of my life. So learning to deal with that and unlearn that has been really fucking hard. And that's what I've realised is my core addiction, because, well, actually, my core addiction is control, which seems really contradictory. If you knew me, I don't like putting other people out, so I let other people take control of the decisions. But when it comes to me and myself and what I'm doing, how I'm behaving, what I'm consuming, it all comes from control. Who I'm sleeping with, how emotionally connected I am to them, whether I like them or not, that's all control, so I can keep them at arm's length. What I'm consuming is control of how my body is, how other people might perceive me. I like to control how other people perceive me a fuck ton. And my eating disorder is where I can really do that, because when I feel like I don't have control in other elements of my life, whether that's my living situation, my financials, work, whatever, it will manifest through my eating disorder, because it's a form of self-harm in a way. It's something that I can control so heavily, and it's exhausting. But then the drink and the drugs on top of that, that's a controlled way for me to lose control. Because when I like to drink or do whatever, it was a way for me to release and a way for me just to exist without a care in the world. And I loved that feeling. I loved the person I became. But it was also in a way where I could control the situation. Like, I controlled when I got into it. I controlled how I got into it. It was all about control and insecurity. Now, unlearning the behaviours of something like an ED when you've had them for that long is so hard. I recently just finished a course of therapy. It was one of the first times where I'd ever been seen or heard for it. And I don't look like the poster child for an eating disorder whatsoever. I'm not skinny. I'm not gaunt. I'm a chubby brown girl. Right? You look at me, I'm jovial, I'm smiling, you don't think a fucking thing. I didn't think anyone would ever believe me. I didn't think I was worse off enough. I thought it was benefiting me. Until someone did listen and I got that round of therapy. But then the perfectionism in me was like, right, by the end of this fucking 28 hours or whatever, I must be healed. And that is not how it works whatsoever. And what taught me that was okay was when my therapist explained to me, like, Melanie, look, 28 hours in the grand scheme of things compared to your 14 years of doing this thing to yourself is a dent. It's not even that, it's a fucking drop in the ocean. So be kind to yourself and take it day by day and be slow and steady through it. So now that I'm out of therapy for it, has anything changed? Yeah, it has. Maybe 2 or 3 things. It's still something I really struggle with. It's probably going to be there for a while. I'm being more intentional. I've got a little, like, how many days have gone by on my phone. We're not in double digits yet, I must admit. But I'm hoping that I'll see those double digits in a while. I don't think I've ever gone that long. But it's really unlearning the restriction. And anyway, I think I'm going to leave it there in terms of the addiction for now, just because I'm still figuring it out and I don't want to say something that's not right. And I'll keep updates on it and see how it goes. But hopefully, day by day, it's going to get better. Alongside that being one of the reasons why I want to quit everything, there's obviously the implication of health. Now, that's major for me. I spoke in the last episode I touched on longevity and what that meant to me and how it was changing my perception of how I should be leading my life. That led to me then thinking about what I was consuming, how I was behaving and what I was doing. I want to really make sure that I'm here for the long haul. There is nothing more than I don't know what it is, but I know 110% in my heart and soul that one day I want to have a family, regardless of whether that's with someone or on my own. And I want to make sure that if I look at my body as a capsule for another being, I want to make sure that my body is the best capsule that I could possibly offer someone else to grow in and come into fruition in. I'm the kind of person that would like to buy top of the range everything, right? Why the fuck would I put my child in, like, a bashed up Volvo? You know? I want the baby to be in, like, a nice little G-Wagon. Like, cozy, cushy, good suspension, you know? So that's one of my main drivers. I know that is so far ahead in the future. Well, is it? I don't know. I know that it feels like a silly thing to kind of be aspiring to. Well, it isn't, but that is one of the big things. I want to make sure that my body My body is sound and so is my mind for holding a child, but also then being a parent and being here for that child and hopefully well into their adulthood. The other reason is probably also to do with my children, and that's stopping this generational trauma. These emotional issues have been something that's kind of been highlighted to me through my family, and I don't want that to continue to my children. There are other elements as well from both sides when it comes to relationships, especially boundaries and stuff, and that's what I'm really trying to learn at the moment. I'm really trying to figure out how to respect my own boundaries, how to honor them, and how to communicate them. I really struggle with not wanting to feel like I'm putting people out or not wanting to upset people or hurt their feelings, and I've really got to realise that it doesn't really fucking matter. Like, at the end of the day, the other person, if they're getting their feelings hurt, they'll forget about it. It's you that has to deal with the fact that you've pushed yourself into a position that you haven't enjoyed being in at all. And those are things that I do not want to pass on to my children, so I'm trying to end it with me. So all of it is kind of like stemming back to even the eating disorder stuff, really. Like, when I first went to therapy, I said, the reason that I'm here is because I want to be the best mum I could possibly be, and that means not putting this shit on my children. I think that kind of covers why I'm doing what I'm doing. I hope it does anyway. But the one thing I mentioned in the intro of mourning and grieving, I have characters, right, that most people, if you know me, you'll know these characters. Now, there's drunk Mel and there's feral Mel. And those two Mels, by the way, I'm not a Mel when I'm sober. It's fucking Melanie. Do not call me Mel. I hate it. Well, I don't hate it. Well, no, I do. I do hate it. Please don't call me Mel. But drunk Mel and feral Mel are iconic. It was Brat Summer all over. I was doing Brat Summer before you bitches knew about it. Or was I just messy? I don't know. But anyway, I love those sides of me. Like, drunk Mel is funny. Drunk Mel is clumsy. Drunk Mel has confidence. She will end up backstage. Trust that bitch. Trust that bitch. She will get there. Feral Mel is just horny. Feral Mel is a different league. She's flirty, she's confident, she knows who she is and what she wants, and she goes and she gets it, right? Those are two elements, I suppose, that I have that within me in sobriety. I completely do. I can be those things and be able to walk in a straight line. But letting go of those people and being able to access them, what seems so easily because of the substance and because of the drink, is really hard. And also, I feel like when I'm going out or I'm going into social situations, there is an expectation on me to be a certain type of way, and that comes in tow with those characters or those personality sides of me. So I feel like when I can't give those things, I'm kind of letting people down in a way. And I know that that's not the case. I know that people want me to show up in the healthiest and happiest of ways. And for me, being those things are no longer the healthiest or happiest things in the long term. It might feel great in the then and now, but then it's something that can lead to my house of cards tumbling and blowing the fuck over, as well as everything else. Did I just... Yeah, that was a bit... See, that was a bit of feral Mel. So I know that those things are there. It's just accessing those things. And I think that when you don't have the crux of being able to fall on the things, it really highlights what you need to do and where you need to go to reach those things. Which leads me to the last 2 times that I've been out. I'm feeling a lot of shame around this, to be honest, because it wasn't just a one-off. It was 2 nights on the trot. Is it 2 nights on the trot if it's weekend after weekend? I don't know. It doesn't matter. But anyway, so I realised that when I first go out, there's a portion of time where I am somewhat disassociated, And I don't know why this happens. I think it's because I get really overwhelmed with the amount of people, the conversations, the smells, the temperature, the whole shebang. I just sound like an absolute nightmare. But I genuinely think that is a problem for me. And as much as I'm an extrovert and I love being in those spaces, it takes me a beat to realise and feel comfortable. I need to understand my surroundings and really melt into the energy. This only was really highlighted to me this week when I had a conversation with a friend, that this is something that I do, and she's seen me do it multiple times. And then I realised that when I'm in that window is usually when I fall. And I did the last 2 times that I went out. When in reality, all I had to do was ride it out, not go into the smoking area and have about 10 fags, and trust and believe that I will find my feet and I'll be okay and I'll have the greatest of nights, because it's something that I have done in the past. It's there in all of us. It's just getting through that anxious window, whether that's before prees, at prees, in the venue, I don't know where it is. Get through the fucking window and you'll be absolutely fine. Once I get through that window, I'm hoping to find drunken feral Mel, but like through sobriety, obviously. So going forward, I'm going to actively, I'm gonna keep trying, and I'm gonna keep going, and I enjoy going out, and I'm gonna keep doing it, but doing it sober. And through this conversation, I'm hoping that there's been something that you can either relate to or you can take away or kind of learn from what I've been doing, whether that's right or whether that's wrong. But I'm gonna challenge you. I'm gonna say, take a beat to look at your own life and see what's been going on for you. What's your driver? How are you feeling going into the Christmas season? Is there anything that you wish you could achieve without the help of something else? If so, what's stopping you from trying to get there? I know Dry January is coming up, so obviously I'm going to be on that fucking bandwagon. But if anyone else wants to join me, please feel free to. That'd be great. As always, if you've got any feedback or would like me to explore or talk about something, please hit me up. You can find me on Instagram at Primal Attraction Podcast or Melamality. But anyway, it's been lovely. Thank you so much for listening to me go on. I hope you've stuck it out to the end. If so, a big, big thank you. And catch you in the next one. Bye.